This is going to be a fantastic evening. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you are as well. We've got some amazing speakers. So the format for tonight will be a bit of a discussion and a bit of a panel so that we can hear from these speakers, and we'll have a bit of a chat, a cordial, about why local body elections is so important, how we can possibly engage people to be more passionate about local body politics, and what some of the big issues facing the city are as well. And you'll have the opportunity, of course, to ask questions of our panelists as well and hear from our amazing speakers. We do have, of course, a limited time to get through everything. So when we get to the question portion, if you just try and keep your questions kind of nice and concise, and if you do want to specifically direct them to anyone, just make sure that you either let us know via the microphone, or if you're using the Slido feature, just write down who it is that you want to direct your questions to. Slido, for those of you who don't know, is an amazing interactive Q&A tool to be able to ask these questions. I'm going to have an iPad with me so I can look through the questions in real time as you're submitting them. If you've got a smartphone or an iPad or a tablet, whatever it is, visit slido.com. Enter the event code #elections, and then you can ask your question virtually on Slido. We'll obviously try and get through as many of them as time will allow, or if you are in the room with us this evening, please just feel free to raise your hands and we'll bring a microphone to you and you can ask your question in person as well. Don't forget as well, like I said, leave your phones on so that you can post to social media if you feel like doing that. We've got some hashtags already going. Hashtag AKL conversations, hashtag AKL elections, and hashtag vote Auckland as well. This is obviously a really inclusive and accessible place for people. We want people to be engaged in this kōrero. So on-demand viewing of the event, a full transcript and captioning will be available on the Auckland Conversations website in the next few days. Everyone ready? Yay, fantastic. This is an exciting time. Voting has opened. By the way, turn your heads and have a look at the back there. Give everyone a wave. That's our amazing elections team. You can go and have a chat to them. You can register to vote. You can actually vote in person, right? Yeah, they can come and see you. Amazing. Go and have a chat to them. They are amazing. Yes, round of applause. Voting has opened, by the way. Hopefully you've got your packages in the mail, or you're going to go and chat to the team to make sure that you get those papers in the mail. Don't forget as well to vote before midday on the 8th of October. Tonight we're here to talk about why it is so important to vote, why it's important that Auckland's eligible voters help choose who our next local body politicians will be, and the future for this incredible city. Yeah, I watched the boring tunnel go through the. It was amazing. It was so good. Don't laugh, Twila. It was incredible. I loved watching it, and it got me so excited because those are the things that are going to make my Auckland living experience a lot better. So it's things like that that I think, okay, that's why I need to be involved and why I need to be passionate and why I need to vote in local body politics, because those are the things that affect me. It's amazing. I think so many people get so focused on central politics, but local body politics affects us every single day. It's why we need to be involved, engaged, and it's why things like Auckland Conversations is so important. So thank you for being here today. There's about 170 positions that candidates are standing for, so there's a lot of people involved, really hoping for your engagement and votes as well. So make sure you do your research. There's some amazing tools online that you can use to find out a little bit more about the candidates, what they stand for, who they are, and why they want your vote. Go and do that. Don't just tick the boxes. Actually read up about these people, because they're the ones that are going to make your life a lot easier. Right, shall we get into it? Let's introduce our panelists. We have some incredible panelists this evening, and each of them comes from a really unique viewpoint as well, so it's going to be amazing. Our first panelist is Erin Temu. Give him a round of applause. Erin is the senior advisor for community engagement at the Electoral Commission. That's his team down the back there. Say, go Erin. He especially works really hard on the engagement work streams to reach our Māori, Pacifica, youth and education, and hard-to-reach communities as well. He's been very hard at work. We're going to talk to you a bit about the mahi you've been doing, Erin. Thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it. Our next panelist is Julie Watson. Give her a round of applause. Julie Watson is the program manager for the Silver Rainbow and Rainbow Tick, and member of the Rainbow Advisory Panel at the Auckland Council. She also worked for 2 decades, that's right, at the Human Rights Commission. So she's going to be fascinating. Can't wait to speak to you, Julie. Thank you for being here. Panelist number 3 is Latavia Tualasia Tautai. I got that right? Tautai. Awesome. Welcome, please. Come on up. Latavia is the project manager at YWCA. She's a second-generation Auckland-born Samoan. She's really focused on the engagement and empowerment of young people with a bit of a feminist lens as well. So it's going to be fascinating to get your point of view this evening. Thank you for being here, Latavia. And finally, Tuila Fortai, a journalist who grew up here in Tamaki Makaurau and now works for E Tangata and is focused on Pacific issues as a writer for the magazine. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We've got a couple of microphones for you guys to share as well. I thought, first of all, the best thing I thought I wanted to get from each of you to start with is why you love this city so much. Why do you love Auckland? Erin?
Well, I love Auckland because it's my home.
Yeah.
I was born here. I did school here. I got married here. Have all my favorite people here. So, you know, home is where the heart is. So this is my home, Auckland. Love it.
Beautiful. Julie?
Yeah, what he said. all that stuff. And also, I really love the beach. And in Auckland, you can be at the beach, any type of beach, within a nanosecond, just about. Well, not always a nanosecond because of traffic. But, you know, that's something else that we need to vote strategically for to get sorted out.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass, isn't it, Julie? Yeah. Latavia, what about you?
I love this question because I'm a Jaffa through and through. I'm passionate about Tamaki Makaurau. I grew up in West and South Auckland. Anyone here from West Side? Yeah. have we got South Side in the room? Okay, we need more of that. Something to work on for next time. So I'm really passionate about our people, really, and I think as a Pacific person, this is the largest Polynesian city in the world. There's more Samoans here in Auckland than there are in Samoa, and I love it here, 685. But I think something a little bit deeper is that I'm second generation, so my grandparents came here when the New Zealand government invited us to work underpaid, overworked. So my grandparents put their blood, sweat and tears into building Auckland's infrastructure. So it runs a bit deep, my love for Tamaki Makaurau, period, yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that answer. Tuila, what about you?
So similar themes to everyone here. I grew up here and it's home, so I love it. And I also do like how it is a massive Pacific city. It's very diverse, and I would love to see us move forward from that and make it probably a more inclusive city where it's less segregated and where everyone gets to enjoy all the different parts about it, like the beaches and the moana and the parks and the walks, in a way that doesn't seem like you're going sometimes to another part of the country.
Beautiful. We'll talk more about that later shortly, because I'd love to unpack that a little bit more with you. But Erin, I wanted to get an understanding from you, because obviously this is your territory, right? Local body politics and central government politics as well, but especially in this conversation, why is it so important that people are engaged in local body politics?
Yeah, so how we try and connect the message is that we just create a story. So when you wake up in the morning, you have your little cup of tea. You have to appreciate the water that's coming through those taps, and when you put your plastic bottle into the recycle bin, you got to appreciate the bottle that will be recycled. And so everyday things: walk the kids down to school, take them to the pools for swimming lessons, the footpaths that we use. the road that we drive on, the pool facility we use, so when you connect the authority that is connected to water, recycling, footpaths, roads, the pools, the parks, everyday services run by the council, they're important to us. But sometimes, if they're not working, it matters more. But when it does work, it does really matter to us in our lives, everyday lives. So that's why I think it's really important to vote, is because it really does affect our everyday lives.
Do you think people understand that? Do you think they understand how much it kind of permeates so many aspects of our lives?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say no,
Yeah.
only because I am probably not good at acknowledging all those links that you've just pointed out. I think when you were talking just then, Erin, what I thought most about was lockdown. I mean, no one wants to think about lockdown, but just having access to like a green space. And then it became really obvious how important it was to have that, especially because it was so full. Like, I live just down the road from Cornwall Park, Maunga Kia, and it wasn't supposed to be, but it was like a train station the whole time, and parents were able to bring their kids out at like 7 in the morning, so it was a lifesaver, really, yeah.
Beautiful. Latavia, what about you? I don't mean to, from a younger person perspective, because often...
So,
because younger people get a bad rap, right, about their engagement, not just in local body politics, but central government as well. So why do you think it's so important that young people get involved? Because for them, they might think, well, I don't own a house, I don't have to deal with paying rates or anything like that. This doesn't affect me, but it does, right?
Yeah. So, Maddie, I'm 24, so I'm nearing the end of the youth space, so it's nearly time for me to give it up, hang it up.
You're youth adjacent.
I'm nearly youth adjacent, but definitely youth on this panel. Nah, jokes. But anyways, I think it's important to acknowledge that young people, rangatahi, we're not homogenous, and there's so many different types of people. But amongst my community, I'm definitely not an exception. I'm just a reflection of the amazing young people around me that are engaged, and they're engaged in different ways, some of them on the front lines with protests, and some of them within the public sector working in policy. But we're also among the very lucky who have had access to education and who have had access to like university, and that's also a very privileged group of rangatahi as well, because we're already engaged in systems, right? But we're also a part of a group that haven't fallen between the gaps as well. And I just think of especially like our young people who need to leave high school to support their families. You were talking about lockdown and everything. So when they're focused on keeping the lights on, it's hard to read a booklet with what different councillors think about different things, especially if you've only seen them during election year. So it's really important when we're engaging with rangatahi that it's two ways, that it's reciprocal, and that rangatahi are also gaining things from those interactions and not just being used, I guess, for election photos and I just think of the incredible work that like Erin and their team do, engaging rangatahi actually by youth for youth, the kind of work that they do, but then thinking of the other side on like council side and with government and everything, it's how are those systems actually engaging youth on a day-to-day basis, how we not only at the table, but kind of dismantling those systems so that we can engage in ways that are accessible. Yeah, sorry, not the big words, but...
No, I love that. But how do you do that, do you think? Because we know, I see that they get a bad rap, but we know how engaged young people are in the issues that matter to them. But like you say, if there's a lot else, if there's a lot of other things going on in their life, it's hard to get that cut through. So how do you do that? How do you engage with them?
I think and a prime example we can think of is during COVID. The way that we engaged communities and the way that we actually empowered and put resources behind community groups and organizations and young people that were already doing the work. So I think it's about youth-led mahi that has the resources and has the money, because when we actually empower groups, for example, you could just think of South Seas out in Otara, the way that they engaged and mobilised our communities, but also acknowledging how hard it is to vote sometimes for some people and how hard it is to get some places. Gas is expensive, period. It's wild out here. But then also, if you think about public transport, a lot of my family work night shifts. So they can't catch a bus to night shift, they're using petrol. And having those kind of incentives like petrol vouchers and grocery vouchers, I don't really think of it as like bribing people, I think of it as acknowledging the inequities, and that for some people it takes a lot more to get to voting stations or to get to places. But I know that they're doing a lot of work on that, but I think there's also not enough awareness around what's out there, but amazing work that is being done, but also acknowledging the inequities in our communities.
She's 24. God, amazing. Julie, I wanted to get your perspective though, because I mentioned you worked for the Human Rights Commission for a long time, and now you work for the Rainbow Advisory Panel. So I wanted your perspective on democracy and why it's so important, especially to those minority or marginalised communities as well.
I think that the short answer is that's a really good way to amplify your voices, is to have people that you have elected, people who are standing up and representing people who are like you in those roles. And what was it, 170 different roles are up for grabs, and the voter turnout historically has been in such tiny percentage. The people who take on those roles, what kind of mandate is that for them, you know? How do they know that they really have the people behind them when so few people have come out to put their mark on the piece of paper? And I know that in some communities, the difference between one person and another, it might just be a very few votes, which, you know, that's about democracy, you know? Every single vote absolutely counts. And if you are wanting to get your people into those positions to make sure that your communities are represented, you have to get out and vote. And I think that every person who makes a commitment to vote should also grab at least one other person and take them through the process. Show them how the book works, how you fill it out. Offer to take their papers to the local countdown. But like, if you're committed to voting, commit to just, you know, helping another couple of people who might never have engaged in that democracy to do it as well, and explain to them why it's so important.
And we need to make sure we have unique voices and a wide spectrum of voices in terms of our local body politics, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do we have that at the moment, Erin, do you think? In terms of, if we look at the candidates, do we have a good cross-section of possible voices to represent such a diverse city as Auckland, as Tamaki Makaurau?
Probably in this particular election, because it's run by the council and not by the electoral commission, they probably have all the data on the diversity side of things,
Yeah.
so we're not really involved in that. But from what I've seen in the community and on the billboards, I've seen a lot more diversity this time around, and there's a lot more people standing, especially in our Māori and Pacific spaces, as well as male, female. So yeah, from what I've seen, it definitely is represented.
Tell me about the work that you've been doing recently as well, because I know you've been on the ground working really hard to make sure that people get out and vote.
Yeah, well, we have a shared work plan with the Auckland Council to encourage participation. So at the moment, we've got the one-stop shop here, but we put those one-stop shops where you can vote and enrol at the same time, started this week, at places that we can that need that support. So we kind of have two po that we erect as communication and support. And so in doing that, we're placing our one-stop shops at places like the City Mission, at soup kitchens, at the MITs, the AUTs, on marae. So going to places where they do need that support to be able to get out there and actually cast their vote. So it's been really good to have that partnership. And the great thing about it, like this morning, we had the Student Association join us. We've got MIT opening up the space. We've got the council doing the voting and the Electoral Commission doing the enrolment. So that combination is like, you know, any synergy, you get a lot more participation by having free food. Students love free food, and they are able to get educated as well as practically cast their vote. and get enrolled if they haven't done that. So really good work it has been over the last week or so with the council, but we've been planning that since last year, so it doesn't just happen overnight. There's been a lot of planning going into it, and even the pop-ups that have happened this time around, because nobody knows really where the closest post box is, you can go to the countdown here in anywhere in Auckland. And so, that makes it more convenient, and it just helps people out. Go to libraries, to the train stations, and you'll see the boxes that you see over there, and you can actually cast your vote. So convenience, support, and communication is really something that we're trying to increase in this particular election.
Yeah, I only learned about the countdown boxes today. That's
Yeah.
brilliant, and
Yeah, it's a great
you've
idea.
got to make it easy for people, right?
Yeah.
And I wondered how important it is to get into those pockets, like at the City Mission and the soup kitchens, and make sure that these are the people that are also engaged in local body politics who possibly have never voted before.
Yeah, that's right, because it's really hard to communicate to them. You actually have to be there. You've got to be there. You've got to offer the service straight away. You can't put up a poster. You can't send them a text. Homeless people don't have those facilities or those things. Even students don't have access to the data. So we have to position ourselves where these people are so that we can actually get them to participate. So it's been a really good initiative.
And are they engaged, Erin?
Yeah, well, a lot of sausages went today, and yesterday at Otara, as well as Manukau, and before they had to actually go there, they had to visit our enrolment or voting stations. So it's been really good to have those initiatives happen.
Although, Twila, we know participation has been low over the last few years and kind of seems to be steadily declining often. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people aren't engaged in local body politics?
I think it's probably some of the things that we've already covered, where we're not actually sure what, say, local council is responsible for. We're not sure of the role that they play in our everyday lives. And I suppose for me, when I think of what's most important and what I want to vote on, housing always comes up, and that's like a central government issue, right? So housing, what else? Health services, where do I vote for that? So that's also central government. And those, I suppose it's just kind of trying to bring back the importance of what council does. And we had this conversation before about rates, like, I don't pay rates, but actually, yes, we do pay rates. You pay your rates through your rent, obviously. So it's just kind of trying to tie together where, where our contribution, that monetary contribution goes, and then what council actually can do with it, I suppose.
Julie, when you think about why you vote in local body politics, what are the issues that are important to you? What are the things that affect you that make you fill out the voting paper and tick the boxes?
So I'm really ashamed to say that I was incredibly passionate about voting for central government right from when I was a teenager. Like, I turned 18 7 days after the general election, in the year that I turned 18. I was just bitter as, and I came from a family that talked about general politics a lot, and I think really my committed journey to being a voter in local body politics was when I became a panelist on the rainbow panel for Auckland City Council, and we each took different portfolios, and I did 2 terms on the election panel, and then it's like, I just felt so ashamed of how infrequent, what low emphasis I put on it, and so I really feel that my huge committed journey began then.
I wonder, though, whether that shame actually discourages people constantly, because they go, well, I haven't been engaged before. I feel a little bit embarrassed about that, so I don't know where to start, or I don't feel like I can start because I've been so disengaged for such a long time.
Yeah, and when Erin was saying that, about people who don't get things in their inbox and you can't text them and stuff, and I also think about those people who have no headspace left because they're just working so much. They've got so many things to think about, and the booklet seems a bridge too far. And I think that's why it's really awesome that you can go online and watch little videos and do other interactive things that help you get more information. we just, yeah, we really need to help out those people who just go, oh, this is one thing to think about that I just don't have capacity for. So, just reiterating again that idea of take someone with you, take someone on that commitment journey with you, and make it seem so doable for them. Like, I've got adult children, and there's no way they wouldn't be voting in these elections, and or the last ones, because I just really wanted to take them on the journey so they didn't grow up to be like me and not have committed much earlier in their life.
Latavia, do you think we need to break down that shame, that embarrassment of possibly not having been engaged before?
I think I don't know too much about the shame, because I think it's more, I'm speaking from my community.
Yeah.
But also I can't represent an entire community. But I'm just speaking like from the conversations I've had with my family and my community, is that we can only move at the speed of trust. And I don't think there's a lot of trust between a lot of communities and local government, because a lot of people don't actually know what they do. I had to go to university and major in politics and international relations to kind of understand it. So what, you've got to get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of student loan? That's a failure of our system to reach into communities. So I think trust is a massive issue. Like, yeah, of course there's shame and embarrassment, because it's embarrassing having to ask questions that you think everyone knows the answer to. But also, if I don't trust the person who's just come into my community on this one day, I was like, I have never seen your name before in my whole life, who are you? But something exciting about this election is that I've seen names that I could vote for on the billboards and things that I've seen in my community over the years, and it's people from our communities, and I think that's very exciting. It's small progress, and it's great to see more ethnic diversity, and I hope we can have even more diversity, not only in regards to Māori and Pasifika, but more youth representation as well, and also in terms of our LGBTQIA+ community when it comes to local elections. So yeah, I think trust is a really big one. And then based off what Erin said as well, is we can't engage our communities from our desks. And also, like, thinking about where we're holding events and where we're, because not me reading the little Slido, that's not my job, sorry Maddie.
Go for it.
Thinking about where we're having our events, thinking about free parking, because I've got a lot of family members that if there's no parking, they're not coming. Absolutely not. They're like, is it online? I'll Zoom it, and I know they're not watching, but no, love you, family. But it's about making things as accessible as you can, and meeting people where they are. So I think we found from lockdown, like, of course you want to have digital accessibility. Like, if you could have online voting, that would be a dream. And I know a lot of countries are, putting, trials in regards to that. But nothing beats kanohi ki te kanohi. Like, face-to-face is so valuable, and we all crave human connection. But I think it's about building those genuine relationships and communities over years, and also putting people forward from our communities to actually run for these spots at these decision-making tables, but also on the council side, making sure that they're safe places once our people are elected and voted in.
Amazing. Toilet, Latavia obviously touched on diversity. How crucial is that to see someone that feels like they would represent you, represent your community, represent who you are as a person? How crucial is diversity?
I think it's really important. It brings it back to actually wanting to engage. I think that's part of it. I actually think this round of local government election it feels a lot more local, as in, like you mentioned, you can see the people, you know that they're from where you live. So their engagement in the community seems a lot more real. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for engagement, and it encourages people to actually try and find out what the council does.
Yeah. How can we do better though, Erin, in terms of making sure that people know what is done through local body politics, why they should be engaged, why they should vote?
Yeah, I think we can always do better, right? And I think we just need to change the narrative and to give them a narrative to actually believe in, to build that trust and confidence. And, sometimes we have to walk backwards to actually move forwards. And, the past the people that have paid the cost for freedom and democracy, like on Monday, the 19th, 129 years ago, back in 1893, women won the right to vote here in Aotearoa, so a world first. Today, almost half of MPs are women. So if you don't have a say, then you're not only giving up your right, but a real privilege, I believe, to vote, because the people who have gone before us paved the way. So, voting is a great way to honour the past. And, those are the types of things that we have to have on our minds when we're actually talking to people to build that trust and confidence, because there has actually been a lot happened in our past to actually bring into our future.
Surely these are, I'm using extreme end examples here, but if we think of the likes of President Trump and Brexit, for example, big decisions that were made, that were voted in, that a lot of people didn't necessarily agree with. It kind of shows how important it is to have a voice, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the high-end example there, Maggie.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Just it goes to show the importance of having a voice when you're talking about
Yeah.
democracy.
Absolutely too, and how local body politics works too is that you have to campaign and use, you can fundraise and things, but you use your own putia to do that fundraising. And I think that means that we have to be really discerning. We don't just vote for the person who has the most billboards or actually has an ad on television. We have to really be thoughtful about, if we're going to get people that look like us, will they necessarily have as many resources at their disposal to make a big splash. So being really thoughtful about that and thinking about what the costs of all that is as well too, I think is important.
And making sure that that you feel like they'll make a difference when they're actually there.
Yeah. And what's the what I think it's like your trust, eh? What is the motivation of these candidates?
Yeah.
And how do I pick the people who I feel have the motivation that aligns with my values?
Twila, I mentioned before there's some amazing tools online that you can find out a little bit more about these candidates, but a lot of the onus is on you to do the work. Is that the right approach, do you think? Is that the right way to go about it? To put the onus on the voter to do all of the work to find out about these candidates and what they stand for? Or does there need to be a lot more information given, when people are going to make their votes?
Both. I think we should be proud of our democracy and our system. So yes, there should be some responsibility on us to find out what's happening. At the same time, the low turnout rate shows that it's just not working. So therefore, we do need more engagement, and we need to find better ways to engage people, because we're just not talking to enough people. And as to how we do that, again, if we wanted to reach youth, I know you, adjacent, we just have to talk to them and see what ideas do you have, or what would you like to see done? Because otherwise, we're just going to go around in circles. And I'm sure Erin knows what this is like when you're just trying to engage people and perhaps don't have the right tools or the right methods to do it.
Yeah, Latavia, how do you do that? How do you do the young people have an idea of how to get more engagement?
Yeah, well, we've talked about it a lot. It's going to where rangatahi are. So thinking about our education system, and I know that teachers have so much to fit into the curriculum, but the fact that we don't teach civics at a level where people, because it's so important, like the youth vote is so integral, not only for like the turnout today, but also it's been shown that your youth voting patterns as a young person reflects whether you're going to be engaged for the rest of your life. So you've got to get people early as well, because like we said, a lot of the working poor are time poor, but we have a lot of young people and kids in schools when they're young, and that's the time to kind of, because the first time I kind of ever thought about politics, and how it affects me is when a teacher at my school got us to do a little like mock debate about like issues that kind of affected us, like whether we wanted a school uniform or not, and which is very pressing. you know, but it really got me thinking about how important our voice is, and like you said, voting for the sacrifices of before and now. But like as a kid, it's just like, how do these things work? Who am I voting for? And also young people and children, even in primary school, meeting candidates and meeting politicians before election year, you know, and that they're consistently involved, and that there are some who are doing incredible work, and that needs to be highlighted, you know, in the media. So that's on you too. You know, and in spaces, in mainstream spaces, to acknowledge those people. Because I know so many people on the front line who are putting in the work, you know, like Erin's team and like, you know, Bubblegum, South Seas, and like so many churches, like Pacific people volunteer, not me going on and on about Pacific, but I'm proud. We volunteer over 40,000 hours per week in New Zealand alone, which is what, yeah. Put hands together for my people, you know, but there's a lot to be said about unpaid work, and that's a whole nother panel. But I just want to acknowledge like everything we kind of contribute to the front line. So yeah, the onus shouldn't only be on the voter, but also on those on a systemic level to reach in as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Erin, is that a big part of your mahi at the moment?
Yeah, so, you know, we have to have a look at it in a way that it's generational and cultural change. And so it's not an easy fix. It's not a target for KPIs for this local body election. That's not how we approach community engagement, because, you know, we have different generations of people coming into New Zealand. First, second, third, fourth generation Pacific Islanders. We have different generations in regards to Māori and even other ethnic groups. And so we've got to approach them differently, but they're all wanting a better future. They're all wanting to build a better generation coming forth through. And this is our message, is that you can do it simply by having a voice, casting your vote, getting somebody that represents you, standing, you know, in these local elections. And that's our message to our community, to be able to increase success. And that's why I think there's a lot more buy-in into local body elections this year than I've seen in the previous two elections, which is really good.
Isn't that so inspiring?
Yeah.
And hopeful, right? And we need a bit of hope. Yeah. Julie, I was looking at some of the stats that the council sent me. There's been an increase in the number of candidates aged 35 to 44 this year. There's been an increase in Middle Eastern, Latin American, African candidates, up by about 8%. What do you think that'll mean for voter turnout? Do you think that'll make a difference?
Yes, I absolutely do. I mean, if you're in that 8% and you see people that are part of your communities who look like you, who have the same issues in their lives, who have the same interests of you, I do think you will turn out and vote for them. Yeah.
Brilliant. So
Yeah.
where do we go from here then? Erin, I'll start with you. How do we move forward and make sure that we're engaging the right people, getting them motivated to get out and vote, and making them care about something that affects them every single day?
Yeah, well, we approach every community, and community issues require community solutions. We don't have the answer in government, it's all in the community. And so that's what we do, is we consult with the community, we talk to the community, because it's their generational change that they want. It's of course we want it, because, you know, this is what we do for a living, but the reality is the benefit lies in the community. And so by mobilizing the community and empowering them to have a voice, to be able to stand and to understand the past that brings us into the future, I'm hoping that will change the next generation of voters coming through. And I think the younger people are way more astute than when we were young, and they have a lot more access to knowledge. So I think that they are a lot more advanced, and I'm sure they'll turn out more as we go along. So yeah, that's my hope. And it is all built on hope. So.
Yeah, Julie, are you hopeful? Are you hopeful that we can get this right, that we can get engagement to where it needs to be to make sure that we have a thriving democracy when it comes to local body politics?
Yeah, I am, but I do think one of the keys would be to make it digital as well. I think that we need to take voting online, however risky it might be that, you know, overseas people with bad intent hack into our information, which, you know, actually I left my voting papers in the box for a whole day. My neighbours could have come and taken those and used them and voted. So I don't know how real that risk is, but I think there's so many populations that would use the online system. It's how we work. We sit at our computers and our mahi comes in, our messages, our lunch invites all come in through that way. If we could bring up our voting papers, click into who the different candidates are, I just know that it would increase engagement. So I would definitely like to see a more 21st century approach, to the whole voting mechanics.
Latavia, what do you want to see?
Sorry, we got the right mic. Because, okay, so on one side, systems don't inspire me. They weren't built for me. They weren't built for my community. But on a hopeful side, on a positive note, what does inspire me is seeing young people running. And so I'm going to use an example. They're not in Auckland, so I'm not saying to vote for them or anything. So I'm going to use an example. So I've got a friend, Tale Bryant, who's running for mayor in Whakatane. And seeing a young Fijian Māori Pākehā woman who's been engaged in community from the get, engaged in rugby, engaged in youth empowerment, and who's also a young person running, for a space at the table and to lead an organisation. And I guess that's what inspires me, and seeing people back her and seeing people back young brown women. It's exciting, and that's what I think gives me hope. So not only having a higher turnout and people using their voices, but also on the other side at decision-making tables, our people not being afterthoughts. We're thought of as priorities as well, because our voices matter.
That's a really interesting point, Twila, I think she made. We've talked a lot about engaging people in terms of voting, but we need to engage people to actually want to be a part of local body politics and democracy, right?
Yes, and I think it is a tough gig, to be quite honest. I agree with, I'd love to see digital, Julie, and I would love to see more candidates. The other one that I might throw into the ring would be, and this is kind of what you guys are doing with working with MIT and the universities, is there a way to look at trying to get large workplaces involved in terms of the enrolling process? So that's a practical solution. Maybe not as big-minded as what you've suggested, Latavia, but yeah, it's just another tool in the box.
And that's what we need, right? We just need as many tools as we can, as many ideas that are going to drive people forward and get them engaged. Yeah, brilliant. You four, thank you.